So a little bit of an update. Yesterday, I wanted to start flushing the cooling system, the radiator, and the coolant in the engine itself. But to do that, I have to remove this engine cover here, this one. But to do that, I need to unbolt these three screws. Now they are 8 or 9 millimeter screws, and I have a socket for a 10, which is the smallest one I have. So what I decided to do is to go to a B&Q, my old pal, the B&Q, and I did. And well, I'm like a little kid in a toy store. When I go to B&Q, I always see something and I buy it. So this is what I left with. I bought this thing, which is called an Easy Out. I already talked about this, I think. It's these little bits, screwdriver bits, that are used to extract stripped screws and bolts. This is going to be really handy for the brake caliper that I have, because I'm going to try to extract those screws that are stripped in there. So I ended up buying that, and I found this thing, which is like a ratchet screwdriver slash wrench. It uses an Allen slash hex attachment, and it came with all these different bits, screwdriver bits, both flat and Phillips. It came with Torx bits. It came with even more screwdriver bits and even more Torx bits, and also these Allen bits or hex bits. And the neat thing about this thing, and also came with all of these, which are sockets for everything from 13 millimeters all the way down to 5 millimeters. So with this, now I'm covered all the way from 5 millimeters to 17 millimeters. Another cool thing about this thing is that it's hollow on the other side, on this side. So for one thing, you can fill it with all the different bits that you have, and also this means that you can put leverage on it. You can just unscrew this and put as long a tube or bar as you want on there to have all the leverage you would ever need, which is really cool. And it only costs I think it was £15 or 15 something. But yeah, with this, hopefully I'm gonna be able to finally flush the cooling system and move on to other jobs. And also, hopefully, I'm gonna be able to use this to save my brake caliper, because I just don't want to buy like a generic universal brake caliper for a motorcycle, because braking is one of the most important, if not the most important parts of riding a motorcycle. I don't want to just gamble on it. So, and I looked online, I can't find a brake caliper for this exact bike, so I would have to buy like a universal one. So it would be really cool if I could save the caliper. I'm not really concerned about the brake cylinder, because that's just a lever basically. I can buy any universal one and it'll probably work, but the caliper is really important. So anyway, I'm gonna try to save it with this, and I'm gonna unscrew these with this. So yeah, that's cool. And now let's move on with the work. Good news, these things cost me together about £20. They saved me at least £100, because it worked. I was able to get this cover, pin cover out with the easy out, drilled through and then just eased them out. This thing, or is it this thing? They're called easy outs. Really good tool to get out stripped bolts and screws. Takes a little while, but it works. And then with this thing, I was able to get the pin out, which means I don't have to buy a new caliper. It's back in business. So now I was gonna do the coolant flush today, but now that this is done, I think I'm gonna deal with this one, clean up. Oh wow, this actually has a decent amount of brake material on it still. But that's full of gunk in there. So first I'm gonna try to clean this out, see if I can salvage the what they're called, the pistons in there, those things. If I can't, if I have to scratch them to get them out, then still I'll just have to buy new pistons, which are much cheaper than a whole new caliper. So yeah, I'm gonna deal with this one now, and then I'm gonna move on to the caliper, I mean the coolant. I don't think I'm gonna film the brake work because it's just gonna be tiny work. You're not gonna be able to see much anyway, but I'm gonna come back for the coolant work. So I started with the coolant. I didn't record because it's too cold and I just wanted to do it quickly. Essentially what I did was I removed the cover from over here. I then undid this drain plug, which drained all the coolant out into this bucket and to the ground a little bit. Then I had to undo a hose, this one, which was a pain, but I had to undo this, and then some coolant came out of this one as well, from this thing, I think, the cylinder. Then I had to reconnect this hose, which was another pain. Then I'm moving on to the radiator. I had to undo this clip, which is the fan electrics. I then had to undo the overflow hose from over here. That was a little bit of a pain as well. I cleaned everything. I undid this one, which is the something, I don't know exactly what. And now I wanted to flush the system, but to do that I have to put back this thing, which is the battery holder, which has the coolant reservoir connected to it, which I can't undo because it's too rusty. But anyway, I'm gonna have to put that back over here. I'll maybe clean this area a little bit and then put it back, and then once that's back I can remove the radiator and try to clean it or see if it's still salvageable. So that's the status report for now. The bike is a mess still, but it's getting there. It doesn't look it, but with every day it's closer and closer to being a functioning bike again and to be a highway warrior again. So, slight hiccup as usual. Namely, I managed to put back the battery holder. I then realized that I can't put the battery holder in and then connect the coolant reservoir, because it just doesn't fit. So now I have to remove the battery holder again, connect, or at least position the coolant reservoir, put the battery holder back in, and then connect the coolant reservoir, which is just awful. But so he's working on a 2005 rotten motorcycle. So let's do that, eh? I'm gonna try to position the camera so you can see something. Okay, now finally I can move on to the radiator, something I wanted to do since like last week, so something always came up. Another thing I'm worried about is this throttle, because it sticks like that, it doesn't go back on its own. See? It stays like this. Hopefully it just needs some oiling or something. But with my luck, it probably needs a whole rebuild. Anyway, radiator. So I took the radiator and the fan off. They were both in pretty bad condition. I cleaned the radiator thoroughly. I ran water through it until it came out clear, and I tried cleaning the fins as well. I think they came out okay. I mean, you can like see through them clearly, which means the passages are somewhat clean. I tried straightening some of the fins. These bottom ones I couldn't, they're just too far gone, but all the rest they came out okay. The fan, however, was incredibly rusty. I tried cleaning it out as much as I could, putting on some oil, and I mean it spins freely, and I am going to put it back, just because I want to start the bike as soon as possible. But this might be one of the things I replace pretty soon, one of the first things maybe. And I think a radiator as well, because I mean cooling is pretty important, so yeah, I don't mind spending money on cooling or brakes or engine, because those are the most important parts. So yeah, now I'm gonna put this all back on the bike, and then I'm gonna do a full flush of the whole cooling system, and we'll see what comes out. Probably a lot of pink gunk, because the coolant in this thing was pink. A lot of the pink stuff came out of the radiator as well. So the cooling system is all flushed. I put through at least 5 liters of water, so everything is flushed. I did it until clean water came out of the drain plug, and then I assembled the cooling system back. The radiator, the fan, the plug, the cover, everything. I think that's gonna be it for today. It's been a long day. Tomorrow I'm going to drain the oil from the tank, from the oil reservoir. I don't know where that is located or where the plug is, but I'm gonna look at the book and do it properly. After that is done, I think I'm going to start assembling the bike back again. Today I ordered an ignition, fuel cap, fuel filters, and a brake master cylinder and lever. So that is gonna take a few days to arrive. But once it arrives, I'm going to just assemble the bike back, and it's gonna be time to check the engine, to do the rolling check whether it's seized or not, and if it's not, then I'm going to hook up my car battery to this thing, and I'm gonna try to start it, and we'll see what happens. So the next thing is the oil. There isn't too much oil in there because the oil dipstick is dry, so it's probably just a little bit of oil. I'm gonna drain whatever is in there, fill it up with fresh oil, fill it up with fresh coolant, and then see what happens when I start it. But yeah, I'm nearing the end here. Now obviously it's still incredibly rusty, it still needs a whole lot of work, but once I get it started, then I'm gonna move on to getting licensed to be able to ride it, and when that's done, I'm just gonna work on the bike little by little, because all the necessary things are gonna be done. Now it's very rusty, but I checked MOT rules, and surface rust on the frame and components that are not very necessary are okay. I think the shocks are going to be a problem. I'm going to have to change those before an MOT, and the fork seals at least, because they're leaking, and of course the exhaust, because that's rusted away. I'm going to have to change that as well. And then after that, I think, well, maybe the tires. I'm not sure about the tires, but the bike should go through an MOT after all of those are done. And once it does go through an MOT, that means I get to ride it in the city. And after that, I'm gonna have to get my full license, and then I can go on adventures anywhere in the world. I can't wait. But yeah, for now, that's it.